Yeah, yeah, it was yeah, there was a darkness that took over my body. My physical body was still there, but I wasn't in it a lot of the time. But as I became more lucid in that facility at the VA inpatient facility, I eventually walked out and walked into the hallways and went down to the common room. This is a really small facility, and they're on basically a skeleton staff because they have very minimal funding. But what I started to see here was, in lucid moments, I'm not talking about the psychotic stuff that I was experiencing as well, but as I became more lucid, I started to see a lot of parallels to survival training that I had done, to what you do to somebody who's a prisoner of war. We were confined in a small facility. We didn't get to go outside more than maybe once a week, if we were lucky, into a concrete yard that was surrounded by high-rise brick buildings and like 8 to 10 foot metal fencing. There's no connection to nature, no sunlight, no exercise. The food, again, just like the other VA facility, was abysmal quality, garbage food. Your choices for beverages were either the yellow drink or the red drink, because the water that came out of the tap tasted so terrible, like chlorine and fluoride, like it came out of a broken hot tub, that you couldn't even drink the water straight. So you had to drink it with artificially colored flavored raspberry iced tea or lemonade iced tea, just to make it palatable. And so you're malnourished, you're confined, you're being treated less than human because a lot of the staff is not very well trained in these facilities. They're basically just getting anybody they can to work in them. And it's really natural for you to stop treating like somebody's a human when they're in and out of psychoses. But on a level, I was still there. I was coming back into my body and experiencing that. And so these are all the same things that you do to people in survival school to experience what it would be like to be a prisoner of war. Sleep deprivation, every 15 minutes, they were required to come into your room and shine a flashlight into your face to make sure you're safe. So you're already hypervigilant, you already can't sleep, and now every 15 minutes somebody barges into your room without being unannounced and shines a flashlight in your face. So you're sleep deprived, confined, malnourished, treated less than human. Those are the exact same things in the playbook for what you do to somebody who's a prisoner of war in order to break them and get to them to comply with whatever they want. Which, instead of trying to get information from you, what they're trying to get you to comply with is to just take the meds. And there were so many meds. At this point, I didn't even know what all I was getting. Several times a day, I had a whole cup full of all these different pills, and they were just forced upon you, and you didn't have an option not to take them. You were supposed to get to see a psychiatrist to talk to him about what you were taking, but they were so understaffed, you barely got to see that guy every couple weeks. So I was pretty brokenhearted at the system, and as I came back to, I couldn't believe I was in there. And I started to use some of my SEER training to try to get the fuck out of there. I was making makeshift weapons with socks and putting a wet sock in it balled up. I was stockpiling warm clothing, and I was planning an escape. And late one night, I went out and I pulled the fire alarm, thinking that they'll take us out of the building for the fire alarm, and those of us that want can make a run for it. Well, it turns out somebody had already tried that trick. They were pissed at me for pulling the fire alarm, so they brought in the police. They confined me in a room and they forcibly injected me with something called Haldol, which should just be called hell, because it felt to me, as this stuff was injected into me, like there were insects trying to eat their way out from underneath my skin. I was extremely restless. All I wanted to do was run and scream and tear my clothes off and like yell. And it's oftentimes they'll strap people down on a board when they do that. Fortunately, they allowed me to pace up and down in the hallway, but it was another torturous experience. Eventually, I conked out and came back to a little more calm, but it was a fucked up process. I ended up spending 40 days in that facility. Fortunately, with the advocacy of my wife and my parents, who were both worked in the medical communities, they were able to advocate to take care of me and get me out of there, but that was a whole nother bureaucratic bullshit process just to get me out. I had been voluntarily admitted. I was an American veteran seeking help for a medical condition caused by my service, and instead I was tortured, confined against my will. After I tried to escape, I was then committed to the facility, and I couldn't leave anyways, but now legally they weren't going to let me go either, so it was another layer. I also had my Second Amendment rights stripped from me, so I'm no longer allowed to purchase a firearm. And I was put on the law enforcement information network like I was a criminal. So if I ever get pulled over now, I come up in their network like I'm a freaking felon. And I hadn't committed any crime. There was no court of law. It was just this broken medical system I had just tried to utilize.